Hello, my name is Sally Pinto, and I'm the Program Director for the Yonkers NORC, Neighborhood Naturally Occurring Retirement Community. We serve seniors 60 plus in Northeast Yonkers. We are under the auspices of WJCS and the Yonkers Office for the Aging. We also have a resource specialist and a nurse on staff. We conduct virtual programming in partnership with the Yonkers Public Library on a daily basis. Enjoy the program.
Hi, everyone. As Pam mentioned, my name is Alyssa. I work for Feeding Westchester. I know most of you have met me before through our Zoom workshops. Thank you so much for joining today. We'll be discussing fruits and vegetables today and preparing a recipe called baked winter squash. And we're actually going to flip-flop today a little bit. And we'll prepare the recipe first. The recipe actually required me baking it in an oven. So I want to prepare it while it's still warm. So just so you know, it's always voice by choice in here. I'm going to call out and ask questions. You don't have to answer, but it makes it so much more fun and engaging when you do answer. You'll see me looking down at my chat box a lot on my phone. You could probably see that I've joined twice to this Zoom meeting. I'll be checking the chat box to see if anybody writes in anything in there, and I can answer questions that way as well. Or you could just make comments, whatever the case may be, however you'd like to participate today. So like I said, I'm going to start off by preparing the recipe. Before we came on today, I preheated my oven to 325. I then took my butternut squash, which was whole at that point, and I turned it on its side and cut it right down the middle. I scooped out the seeds, as you can see here. And we could talk about things that we could do with the insides after. So for now, we're not using them for this particular recipe. At least the recipe doesn't call for it. Maybe you can figure out ways, if you're making this recipe on your own, ways that you might want to add those parts of the butternut squash back in. So the recipe says, cut the squash in half, remove the seeds, place in a baking dish, and cut side down, bake on 325 for 1 hour or until tender. So I baked it on 325 for an hour, and then I just shut off the oven and I kind of just let it sit there for another 30 minutes while I waited for our workshop to begin. I see that somebody wrote something in the chat box, I believe. Oh. Gina wrote, butternut squash can be prepared in the microwave also, just like a potato. Good point. Thank you so much, Gina. How would you like to share how you usually prepare it in the microwave? You don't have to. Whenever you get a chance, if you want to, you could just throw it in the chat box or turn on your mic. So then it says to remove from the oven, scoop out the squash and place in the bowl. So that's where we're at. I'm going to scoop it out, just taking a large serving spoon. Oh, Gina says she's blocked from speaking. I don't know if there's a way to unblock people from muting themselves, from being muted.
No, we haven't blocked anyone, so everybody should be able to unmute themselves.
Okay.
I just sent her a request to unmute, asking her to unmute herself.
Well, on the security here, it's
Okay.
checked off, unmute themselves, so anybody can unmute themselves if they like.
Okay. So as you could see, I'm just scooping this out like I would ice cream. If you've scooped ice cream before, That's probably another option. You could probably even use an ice cream scooper for scooping it out. And you'll notice probably when you're first scooping it out, to first scoop into it, it's still a little bit hard on top. But once you get in there, it's nice and tender. So we're just scooping it out, and then I'm going to put it right into the bowl. So before I did anything with the butternut squash today, of course, can anyone guess what I did with the butternut squash? I probably sound like a broken record after all these workshops, but it's just so important that we always do what? Oh, actually, so by the way, Gina says she microwaves on high for 4 minutes and then tests the squash and microwaves more if needed. Thank you so much. So like I was saying, just always rinse your fruit and veggies before eating them, even if you're not eating the skin. And that's another thing we're going to talk about. I actually read up on how you can actually eat the skin of a butternut squash. So all the more reason to actually rinse the skin, even if you're cooking it. Okay. So there's a little bit, it gets a little bit messy, so be prepared. And then there's parts of it that get super soft. And I think I'm just gonna, just for the sake of your time, I'm probably just gonna scoop half of it today. So it kind of has the texture of a potato or a sweet potato. But actually squash is considered a fruit. And there are 4 different varieties of winter squash. Does anybody know what the varieties of winter squash are? Okay, so in case you're not familiar, the varieties of winter squash are acorn, butternut, spaghetti. Oh, somebody else. Oh, yep. Gina wrote there's 4 different varieties. Yep, so there's 4 different varieties, and there's acorn, butternut, spaghetti, and Hubbard squash. How about for summer squash? Anyone want to take a jab at those? So for summer squash, we also have 4 different varieties. We have straight neck, crooked neck, scallop, and the one that you're probably most familiar with is zucchini squash. So there's yellow and green zucchini squash. So for winter squash, they're often categorized according to fruit size. And so there's a number of sizes, shapes, and colors available. And they're actually vine plants. Okay, so let me just wipe my hands a little bit. And when you're choosing a squash, can anybody give us some pointers on how to best choose a winter squash? Let's see if anybody's written. So when you're choosing winter squash, you actually want to look for one that's really heavy, as you know, especially in comparison to others. And that they have smooth skins. Can anybody tell me any benefits that they know about winter squash? So to give you one, squash is actually, it's high in potassium. Anyone know what, oh, somebody wrote vitamin A. Thank you, Gina, yes.
High in fiber.
Yes, high in fiber, which is really great for what? We've talked about this before.
Digestion.
Yes, digestion. So vitamin A, beta carotene, May wrote, it combats cancer, minimizes risks, absolutely, especially by there is anti-inflammatory properties and improving your, having a great digestive system, an improved digestive system is so, having an efficient digestive system really, really, really helps us to combat disease in so many different ways. May also wrote, it provides immune support, and yes, the digestive element. Wally wrote, yes, it keeps you warm in the winter months and it's great for colds. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me actually go over the instructions again. So I scooped out the squash and I placed it in a bowl, and now I'm gonna add the remaining ingredients. And then it says mash together until smooth. Serve hot. So that's, I mean, I wish I were serving it to you today, but if I were, I'd be serving it to you hot. And so it says to add 2 tablespoons of canola oil or vegetable oil. I'm actually going to be using avocado oil. It's also fine. It's pretty much flavorless. I guess avocado is actually considered a fruit, so I'm using a fruit oil. Whatever you have on hand, as long as you like the flavor, is really what it comes down to. I would probably not suggest, maybe I wouldn't really suggest peanut oil, but maybe that could add an interesting flavor, so why not? So I'm going to just use 1 tablespoon of the avocado oil since I just used half of the squash. And just going to drizzle it in. And it says to use 2 tablespoons of the brown sugar or maple syrup. I have maple syrup here. I'm just going to use 1 tablespoon. And Wally wrote, what would be considered a serving of squash? So let's go to the, probably, I would say about a cup. Usually that's the general rule of thumb. So this here says that 1 full squash, and I know squash comes in all different sizes, but for an average size squash, it's saying that if you use 1 whole butternut squash, that this recipe makes 4 servings. So I guess about 1/4 of the squash would be 1 serving. Or so about 300, or I guess I should say 240 grams. I would say about 1 cup really is probably the best answer to that question. Okay. So then next I'm going to add my, is this a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon or nutmeg? I'm not gonna cut down on the cinnamon. I like cinnamon. I don't know about you. So I know I cut the recipe in half, but I'm not cutting my cinnamon in half. As long as you don't go overkill, I'm not telling you to add the entire container of cinnamon. But, you know, I think that if we use a little extra cinnamon, it'll just add some really great flavor. So we'll stick to the 1/4 cup, even though we're only doing half the recipe. If you're a cinnamon lover, I'm sure you're liking that. I'm keeping that full amount there. Okay. So, and then it says salt and pepper to taste. I'm not going to add the salt today. We'll just leave it as like a more sweet recipe. I know a lot of people have issues with blood pressure where they may be trying to reduce their salt intake. And this is such a flavorful recipe that why would I add salt unnecessarily? I try and reduce the extras if they're not really a great nutritive source. So you could see me, I'm just mashing this up as much as possible to probably like a mashed potato texture or chunky mashed potato texture. How else? Gina wrote, at least half of the squash could be a serving. It's good for you and not fattening. The stuff you put on top is fattening. So I'm not really saying that you shouldn't have more than 1 cup. And that's what we're actually going to be talking about today when we talk about fruits and vegetables. No one, you can have more than 1 serving in a sitting. It's just knowing sort of the portion sizes and the equivalents, just so we are aware in case we want to know our calorie intakes or whatever the case may be. So does anyone, actually, we can kind of get started on discussing some of the lesson topic today by my asking you, does anyone know how many servings of fruit and vegetables they should be aiming to achieve on a regular basis? Check in the chat box. Any guess is a good guess. No? Oh. Wally wrote, good question. I want to know maybe 2 to 4 servings. Gina wrote 5. Okay, so 5, yes, 5 is the right number. So, and anyone want to take a stab at how many of those should be fruit, how many should be veggie? So about 3 servings of veggies and 2 servings of fruit. And I'm sure you can probably take a guess at why the amount of fruit might be lower. It's because fruit is higher in sugar. Yes, it is natural sugar. But your sugar intake does add up. And again, this is just an average. For someone who has higher calorie needs, somebody who's very active, maybe they can eat more fruit in their diet. So this is just for like the average individual who's consuming about 2,000 calories per day. So someone who's consuming more like who needs about 2,500 calories per day or 3,000 calories per day, they may be eating another 1 or 2 fruits in their diet regularly. It really depends on your individual needs, but just for the most part, in general, it's about 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day, about 2 servings of fruit and 3 servings of veggies. So that being said, yes, I would suggest trying to get in all of your colors of the rainbow, as you might be able to see here, thinking about red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, thinking about getting in that variety either on a regular basis or throughout your week. So if you're really into this butternut squash and you want to eat your 2 servings of fruit as your butternut squash in a particular day, by all means, go ahead. Just, be aware. I had a lot of orange fruit, on one particular day, and maybe on another day, I'm going to make sure that I'm getting in some other varieties, because there's so many benefits to getting in different colors of your fruits and vegetables, because each one is higher in certain vitamins and minerals than others. Wally wrote, I surpassed this because I eat fruits and vegetables as if they are candy, especially when prepping. I eat more than what ends up in the oven. Okay, well, I mean, and again, it depends on the person and what your particular needs are. Okay, so I'm going to just show you what this recipe looks like. Pretty much all mashed up. And you can see it actually goes really far for even just being half the butternut squash. Looks super delicious. It looks a lot like sweet potatoes, but it's actually butternut squash. Anyone have any suggestions on what they might add to this recipe or take away from it? So just a couple of other things that I wanted to mention about butternut squash before we talk more about fruits and vegetables in general today. So like somebody else mentioned, butternut squash is very high in fiber. It's also an excellent source of potassium. Yes, the skin is healthy to eat. It's just a matter of preparation. I actually had pulled up something. So I had actually pulled up something about the winter squash scraps. And it says you can use the outer peel, flesh, seeds, and shells of the seeds and pulp. Just like the flesh and pulp of the squash, it's highly nutritious, offering dietary fiber, beta carotene for immunity, your eyes and skin, and plant phenolic compounds that can help fight disease. So yes, absolutely, you can eat the peel, you can eat the flesh. And this article that I had read actually was written by a dietitian, so I just wanted to make sure that this was legitimate evidence or legitimate advice. So it went on to tell you that you can prepare a squash flavored hummus with the flesh and the skin, and you can saute the stringy flesh. So this part that we're talking about here, the stringy flesh, you can saute it in a little bit of oil. And this person had suggested sunflower or olive oil until it's cooked through and caramelized. You could puree it in a blender with your favorite hummus, and plus a dash of salt or cayenne pepper to make it a little bit spicy, a little bit savory. So there's just a couple of things that you could do. Even with this particular recipe, if you do have a food processor available to make the mashing of it a little bit easier, either way is perfectly fine. You could just do it with a spoon like I did, or a fork, or you could stick it right into a food processor if you don't want to be bothered. And so to go along with what I had been saying about that flavored hummus, you could serve it as a squash hummus in a bowl with crackers or sliced pita, whatever your favorite hummus dippers are. So just like some other really great benefits about butternut squash, it could help to support eye health. And research has shown that it has phytonutrients such as zeaxanthin and lutein. So these help to protect eye health. It contains both of these and carotenoids. Beta carotene, which we convert to vitamin A, also plays a role in eye health and healthy cell renewal. So diets that are high in brightly colored fruits and vegetables, including butternut squash, are rich sources of beta carotene. It also supports immune health. It may support bone health because it contains nutrients such as beta carotene, vitamin C, zinc, and sodium. All of these are positively associated with healthy bone mass. And so all of these are found in butternut squash. And like we had all said before, it also may support digestion. Just 100 grams of butternut squash baked contains about 2 grams of fiber. And there's strong evidence that fiber is associated with a reduced risk of heart disease, bowel cancer, type 2 diabetes, and it also can help your digestion and prevent constipation. So generally, butternut squash is safe for almost everyone. It's nutrient dense, it's a healthy food. But those that are on beta blockers and ACE inhibitors should be minimized somewhat because their intake of potassium-rich foods may need to be minimized. So butternut squash is actually a high potassium food, so you may want to minimize your intake of butternut squash, but that's something that you may want to discuss with your doctor. And one last thing that I wanted to, one benefit that I wanted to list about butternut squash is that it may also help to support weight management. It's low in calories, it's high in fiber, and it has a comforting sweet flavor, which may help to manage appetite. So because of its fiber content, it helps to keep you full longer, make you feel full longer, and help you to feel full faster. It also quenches your sweet tooth because it has a little bit of a sweet taste to it. And so if you're looking for something sweet, and you snack on something like this, then you may not want maybe the less desirable option, such as candy or something. So just a couple of great benefits to butternut squash. And then I just wanted to, I know we've talked a little bit about cinnamon before, so this recipe also contains cinnamon. And so cinnamon has many claims about it. Not all of them are evidence-based, but there is a lot of evidence that does support it may improve blood sugar regulation. It may improve insulin sensitivity, meaning you are able to manage the amount of sugar that you take in a little bit more easily. It also may improve blood cholesterol levels. And it's antimicrobial. So it inhibits the growth of different types of bacteria, including E. coli and Salmonella. It also may help to prevent certain neurological disorders. So really great benefits to this recipe, and I'm so happy that we shared it today. Let's see, I saw that somebody just, let's see, May wrote, question, I used to eat the skins, but then I think it was sprayed with those toxic sprays they use to repel bugs, etc., while farming the squash. How do we correctly ensure we are correctly washing the skins of a squash? Is there a minimum washing time? I wash everything well, but it always seems to be with the squash. I would just say, I don't know if there's any particularly special way to wash a squash. Maybe I would use the scrub side of a vegetable fruit scrubber to make sure that you're getting rid of all that extra, all those sprays. just washing a little extra than you usually would for another if this is a concern. And then of course cooking it. Wally wrote, you mentioned earlier to check for the heavier squash. Why? So I would say that I would check for the heavier squash because that would mean it's ripened a little bit more. May wrote, I just bought a vegetable brush. Yes, thank you. Absolutely. So yeah, a vegetable brush would definitely help. Okay. I know we started talking a little bit about the topic at hand today, which is fruit and vegetables. No worries, May. You wrote, sorry for the misspelling. No worries. That's fine. Okay. Okay. So can anyone tell me any other benefits that we maybe didn't mention today, or just even if we did mention them today, anything that we discussed today that you may want to mention as some benefits of fruits and vegetables, just to it helps to summarize our conversation. So don't feel like you're repeating me. That's totally fine. Any benefits that of fruits and vegetables that you can list? So of course, fruits and vegetables taste great. They're full of vitamins and minerals. Z wrote, improved eye health, absolutely. Vitamin C, yes. Wally wrote, improved chronic support, absolutely. Most are fat-free or very low in fat. And even if they do have fat in them, like an avocado does, those are good fats. You just, of course, want to be aware of your portion size. But the fats that you will find in a fruit are generally good fats. I know that you'll also find them in coconut. You just want to not go overboard. You want to have the amounts within reason. Zero, it's good for your skin. It's a good source of fiber. Yes, thank you so much. Wally wrote, it's great for your hair, your nails, joints, blood flow. So many benefits. Wally wrote, I have a suggestion or question for the future. Can you teach us about carrots? I've seen some different colored carrots, but not sure how to use each one. But what and when to use? Oh, I've seen some different colored carrots, but what and when to use which. Okay, we can definitely talk about that another time. Reed family wrote, their fruits and vegetables can be anti-inflammatory, absolutely. And yes, so they help to prevent certain diseases. So like we mentioned before, aiming to eat 5 cups, 2 cups of fruit, 3 cups of veggies, and 5 different colors of fruits and vegetables every day is beneficial. Or just try and think of it as more throughout the week. So maybe you're not getting, it would be good to try and get different colors of fruits and vegetables in your diet, a variety in your day, but maybe you're only getting a variety of 3 different fruits and vegetables. Maybe you're having 2 servings of the same fruit. If that happens, that's okay. Just focus on, over the course of a week, getting in your variety. So how about how we consume? So Wally wrote, what's the minimum to boil so we don't boil out the nutrients in the squash? That I would actually have to look up I would really recommend baking it. I haven't really boiled it before. And usually with fruits and vegetables, I like to recommend steaming it so that we don't get rid of those vital nutrients in them. So in terms of the types of fruits and vegetables that we're consuming, can anybody tell me anything about the different forms of fruits and vegetables that we could be consuming? So I just want to make a point of saying that, okay, so there's many different ways that we can eat fruits and vegetables, different sources, different ways that we can find them. Can anyone list for me the different ways that we can find fruits and vegetables, maybe in a store? Definitely, they're in juices, smoothies, yes. So some other ways would be absolutely fresh, yes. Okay, so fresh, canned, frozen, while you wrote shakes and soup, definitely. These are definitely ways of preparation. So kind of the juices, the smoothies, the shakes, the soups, these are ways that we can prepare our fruits and vegetables, or we can find them already prepared. But I'm really referring to the ways we can find them, which Z had mentioned. We can find them as fresh, we can find them as canned, we can find them frozen, we can find them dried. And there's benefits to each type. You know, people often associate anything that's not fresh, you know, from the fresh produce section is, you know, not as desirable. And it's not necessarily the case. Yes, fresh might be the best for flavor and nutrition when in season, but each type has its benefits. So frozen is convenient and has good nutrition because the produce is frozen shortly after it's picked. So sometimes it's even has better nutrition in a sense than the fresh itself. And canned has good nutrition and it has a long shelf life when unopened. So there's an excellent use for that as well. Sometimes we may not have access to fresh fruits and vegetables. So any fresh fruits and vegetables are better than none, and you will still get your vitamins from canned as well. Something that I know we've mentioned a bunch of times in here is that one thing that you would want to do is drain out the excess liquid and rinse it for any salts that it may be preserved in. So it has a long shelf life, and which makes it excellent if you can't get to the store again that often. Maybe you're somebody who lives on their own and it's hard to keep up with purchasing fruits and vegetables for one person without it getting rotten before you're able to finish it. And then there's also dried. So dried also has its uses as well. It's convenient and it also has a long shelf life. And in terms of convenience, what's so wonderful about it being convenient, a convenience food, is that you can take it along with you. You can make it and you can combine it maybe with some nuts and seeds and take it along with you as a trail mix and not worrying about it being refrigerated. So just, there's always benefits to each different type. So I had actually sent another handout. I'm not sure if everybody got to see the handouts I had sent today. And I gave you a handout that says easy ways to eat more fruits and vegetables, and to try these tips for eating 5 cups of colorful fruits and vegetables every day. Can anybody give me some examples, even if they don't have the sheet on top of that in front of them? Any examples of easy ways that you like to get fruits and vegetables, or maybe now that you're thinking about it, easy ways that you'd like to incorporate some more fruits and vegetables into your diets?
Well, now that they're frozen and it's warm out, we can do that, you know, put them in a shake or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. So shakes are an excellent way, especially if you're somebody who struggles with adding greens into their diets. Something I always recommend is adding something like spinach to your smoothies. Since it's flavorless, it just gives it really another color. And that's a really great way of getting in your greens into your diet, is by adding it into a smoothie. Wally wrote, add it to everything. Z wrote, on top of oatmeal or cereal. Absolutely. Definitely. Reed family wrote, mixed with trail mix on walks. And yes, we were discussing that's such a great idea. And you know, it's convenient, and you don't have to worry about it getting rotten too quickly. So yeah,
You know what I
can
just
add,
thought of, Alyssa?
yeah, I'm
Instead
hearing
of-
voices. I love it.
Well, we try to respect and not interrupt you as much. That's why we don't do it as much. But
no,
I
don't
thought
mind
of
being interrupted.
maybe we can turn it into a puree, and maybe we can use it on top of, instead of like a store-bought icing.
Yeah,
Could
that's
that be a suggestion?
interesting. Like,
So we just
give
like
me an. It's like as like a jam almost.
yeah.
Maybe that sounds like a good idea. Why not? Yeah, there's pies all the time too that are made with fruits. Just trying not to add the extra sugar. But definitely. So fruits can be so easy for grab and go. Things like apples, so easy to take along with you. Maybe you cut them up in advance, even sprinkle some cinnamon onto it. Apples, bananas, grapes, raisins, these are all really great grab and go fruits. Yes, absolutely. Spread apple or banana sliced with peanut butter. You can add frozen berries to pancakes or waffle mixes. And I love to actually, something that when I was going into the office more, something that I love to do was actually use plain low-fat yogurt and put frozen berries right into my yogurt and just kind of leave it there. And that way I wouldn't have to worry too much about keeping it cold. The berries would actually keep it cold until they defrosted. And so it would serve as a dual purpose. It served as my ice pack, and it would serve as adding flavor to my plain yogurt. So it would melt right into the plain yogurt, give it flavor, and excellent. So absolutely make a fruit smoothie with low-fat yogurt and fruit. And of course, one of my favorites is to add a banana to give it a little extra sweetness and a little extra thickness. So quick and easy way to get some veggies into your diet. Trying to incorporate at least 2 veggies with your dinner. 2 cups of veggies. Maybe you're just steaming up some spinach and having a potato. Simple. You can always add a can of rinsed beans to your salads or soups or pasta sauce. You can always snack on raw veggies like carrots, celery, and cucumbers. And then for breakfast, don't forget that veggies are a great thing to have at breakfast time. Can anybody think of how we can eat our veggies at breakfast time? So you can add veggies like mushrooms or peppers to your scrambled eggs or to an omelet. And I know we've talked about that before, maybe in other groups. Wally wrote, is squash safe for a pet, like a bird or a dog? I'm not sure, but I would think so. I know that my mom even, serves her dogs strawberries and fresh veggies all the time. So I can't imagine that squash wouldn't be good. But I'm not sure. Yeah, absolutely. You can roast your veggies with hash browns. Definitely. That's a really great idea, Z. And we know when somebody like Z says something like that, yes, we have all had peppers in our hash browns before, definitely. Mixed up with potatoes too. Kale smoothies, breakfast burritos, all great ways to add veggies into our breakfasts. So it's a great way to start our day, just right off the bat, getting in a cup of veggies with our breakfast. There's just really simple ways that we can add in those veggies at breakfast time. Definitely breakfast pizza veggie style, absolutely. And we could even make that pepper pizza like we did last time we met. We could cut up the bell peppers and add the sauce and the cheese. You could even cut up fresh tomatoes and add some cheese, and boom, we have a veggie pizza on maybe an English muffin. Definitely, you can stuff a sweet potato with veggies. So many great ideas. And absolutely, don't forget that you can snack on raw veggies like carrots, celery, cucumbers. These are such great grab and go items. You can prepare them a couple of days in advance and just grab them from your refrigerator as you're about to leave the house. Wally wrote, I love this class, but you make me so hungry with great ideas, everyone. Well, they're all great and healthy ideas, so not a bad thing. So of course, something that you can always do is adding veggies directly to even if it's a pre-made low sodium soup or something like that. Add veggies to it to make it go further. You can make a healthy dip by mixing in corn, black beans, and salsa. You can mix the corn or the black beans in with, you guys probably know by now that I love plain yogurt. And you could just add some seasoning into that. Mix it with some seasoning and add in some beans or corn or something like that. And you have a great flavored dip that has veggies in it. And then a really simple thing that a quick way to add veggies would be if you're making a store-bought pizza, even, you can just top that pizza with some colorful veggies like spinach or red peppers, summer squash, mushrooms, again, whatever the case may be. There's always opportunities to just throw some extra veggies in there. Just gotta think about it a little bit and give it a little extra time. Always try and keep some extra varieties of frozen veggies, maybe in your freezer or even canned veggies. And then you can just add them to whatever dish that you are preparing. Does anybody have any questions or any other ideas?
I want to really thank you because this was a really great chat. Everybody like dumped stuff into the chat and then some
Yeah,
people
I'm loving
unmuted.
it.
And I think that, like Wally said, this is making us all hungry and we want to go and try out all these great ideas.
Yeah, I love it. And there's this other handout that you were probably sent. It's called Colors of Good Health. It gives you ideas, another great resource that you can hang on your wall or on your refrigerator of all different colors of fruits and vegetables that you can add into your diet, reminding you of how you can have the variety in your diet.
Hi, everyone. This is Z from Yonkers Public Library. Thanks so much to Sally Pinto and Alexis and Barbara from NORC. Thank you to our community partners, WJCS, the City of Yonkers Office for the Aging, Westchester County Legislator Ruth Walter, Friends of Crestwood Library, and Yonkers Public Library for making this phenomenal partnership. And we thank each and every one of you for being part of our wellness community. Be well, stay well.